This is quite frankly the big one. England take on Wales. And as long as England don't lose by 4 goals or lose 4-0, England will be fine. Wales are sat there thinking, 4 goals and we're in business. They don't score many goals though, so that's an ever so slight worry. England come into this, you'd argue, with it can come with a very relaxed mentality. Wales have not looked great. Wayne Hennessy, of course, suspended as well. Going forward, Gareth Bale has struggled in this tournament a little bit. Obviously, has scored a penalty. Then you've got Kiefer Moore, who's sort of your wild card. And defensively, they've sort of lost that structure a little bit. And I'm saying this from an England standpoint. And I know people are in the comments going, you just wait till Wales win this game. Do you see Wales having any sort of chance in this game?
I don't. But I do think, as much as I think that there's a huge gulf between both teams as far as quality is concerned, you do have to say it is Wales-England. And I think we've seen, certainly over previous tournaments, how much Wales would love to beat us. So I do think that that's one of the obstacles that the players and the staff have to get over. But I do believe that if we perform in any way, shape or form towards the levels that we are capable of, I think we'll beat Wales quite easily. But we all know if you have a certain cagey start to a game, and we proved that against United States, that if we don't start very well and we're looking a little bit cagey and not as fluid as we like, then games can lean into a bit of a dogfight, if you like. And although I think we're going to have, regardless of what team Gareth picks, whether he's going to rest players, I think we'll have far too much in the locker for a Wales team, and I hope we really give it to them.
Would you tinker to a back five? There's been a lot of talk about maybe England need to test his back five before the knockout stage, because I don't personally see Gareth Southgate playing a back four in the knockout rounds, regardless of who England plays. So is it a nice time to try it, considering Wales are going to struggle in this game, let's be honest?
They are going to struggle. I do see Southgate rotating the side massively, but the issue is England do need to win this game. I know not mathematically to get through this group, but just in terms of confidence and in terms of the narrative and the noise that's building, they do need to get a result against a Wales team that we've seen are quite poor. They weren't great against Iran. Iran thoroughly outplayed them. I know the goals came late and it was heartbreaking for Wales, but it could have been 3 or 4. So England go into this game with a little bit of pressure, despite the fact that they're not technically, but basically already qualified. I do see them rotating the side. I personally, as a football fan and purist, I know there's ways to be progressive, playing 5 at the back or 3 at the back, but I think England should try and impose their will. We've talked ad nauseum about the quality that England have got, and when you look at the other best teams in this tournament, I think we put ourselves in that category. They go and impose their will, and despite the fact Southgate has success in terms of switching from a 4 to a 5, I would like to see him persist with 4 at the back, especially because of the personnel that we've got. We haven't, if we play 5 at the back, do we move Trippier to left wing back, or do you play Shaw left wing back? I think if Reece James and Kyle Walker were fully fit, I definitely think go over 5 at the back. But with the personnel that we've got right now, I think persist with the 4, rotate the side, bring in those players that we've been calling for, but keep the 4 at the back.
I would personally play a 4, but I think you're spot on. I think Gareth will move to a 3. I think he'll try and include Kyle Walker. I think he'll not quite match up the same as Wales, but I think he'll play maybe with 2 10s. Or Raheem will then play with Harry. But I think he will move to a 3, because I agree with you. I think the minute we get out of the group, and it's probably not the worst time for Gareth to do it, because coming off the back of a poor performance, goes to his maybe favoured 3, where he feels a lot more solid and safe. And to do that whilst playing against a poor team like Wales, in which you'd hope you'd be creating chances, I can see him very much doing that.
I think the USA result also sort of falls in favour for Gareth, because he can go, we've played a back 4 against a not great side, we've battered them, we played a back 4 against a half decent side, we struggled. Now maybe we go back to my way, we play a back 5 and we beat Wales 2-0 and we're comfortable, there's no drama. I think even in the Iran game, at the end of the game when he did his interview, he said, we conceded 2 goals today. And there's a real emphasis on the fact that I don't want to concede goals. And I think he's right in that sense. In tournament football, every game you've seen so far, you concede 1 and the whole dynamic of the game changes. Then you're chasing, then you're desperate, and I don't think Southgate wants to be in that situation.
No. And it's like what we touched on earlier. Gareth has had what he deems to be success, being the manager that he is, and I think we all know that if he, for a moment thinks that we're going to be coming up against a team that can cause us problems or that is around the same sort of level of us, he will be going to a free. So why not do it in a game where there's a bit of focus on the fact that it's Wales and they need to win, obviously, by quite a lot of goals. But I can easily see him going to a free. But also the fact that Kyle Walker now has had a little bit longer to be ready. You can almost argue that he might have left him out of the States game and stuck with a 4 just because he wanted to give Kyle Walker that little extra bit of time and then ease him in against Wales. I can certainly see him going to a 3.
I know there'll be a lot of Welsh fans sat at home thinking this is English bias. It is. There's 3 English blokes on here. That's kind of going to happen. Yeah. But I think we should definitely talk about Wales and where they could potentially win this game. And I think if you look at that wide area of Dan James, in transition, he's probably one of the most dangerous players purely because of his pace and the ability he's got to get to the byline and beat fullbacks. If England play a back 4 or a back 5, Wales will sit deep and try and hit it long. They've then got this problem of they play with Bale and Kiefer Moore. And you can't play Dan James. You can't play with 3 forwards if you're playing a back 5. You play 2 in midfield, you're going to get overrun. Is this a situation where you go, it's time to drop one of those so that Dan James can play, so that we can hit England on the breaks, we can get in behind and potentially cause some issues, not just rely on set pieces?
I mean, it depends. If they want to go pretty defensive, you could argue that Dan James could play in a 10, if you like, in a 3-5-2. With the 2 midfielders behind him. But because of the fact that you know that Kiefer Moore and Gareth Bale won't be the ones to be running in behind, he may be coming from a deeper aspect where he may be in the 10, so he's close to his 2 midfielders, to meaning that they can block the balls through the middle. But the fact that you have Wales that might be very cagey, not only will he be in the 10, he'll have Gareth Bale and Kiefer Moore that are within 10 yards of him as well. So they might force him out wide. And the fact that there is a turnover and you'd have the 2 wing backs, which I think Gareth will play, going further up the pitch, that might be the opportunity that when there is a turnover, it'll be Dan James going from a 10 beyond our back 3 rather than the 2 9s, if you like, that are going to be playing for Wales.
I also feel for Rob Page. I would never call players who are as great as Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, I don't want to call them passengers, but he is hamstrung by the fact that those 2 are guaranteed starters, even though they might or probably shouldn't be at this stage in terms of what they're giving you. I know Gareth Bale got on the score sheet in the first game, scored a crucial penalty under pressure, but I wasn't impressed with Aaron Ramsey's performance against Iran. He didn't give them anything. And Gareth Bale looked, again, not the same Gareth Bale that we've seen, not the same Gareth Bale that dragged them to the semi-final of the Euros in 2016. But those 2 players are definitely going to start for him. So Dan James is probably going to miss out. He didn't start against Iran. It was Kiefer Moore and Gareth Bale up there. It just didn't work. It didn't work, and Page was reluctant to change it because he can't bring off Gareth Bale. That's sacrilege in Wales. So I think that's going to play a massive part in terms of how Rob Page approaches this game. Those 2 players have to start, and at this stage of their careers, I don't necessarily think they make that team better.
With Wales playing this sort of back line that's going to sit deep, soak up, just keep pumping the ball out for throw-ins and just try and basically gain yards, almost play it like it's a rugby match. Do you roll the dice and bring in Trent for this one? I think at some point Trent has to play at some point. Otherwise, if he doesn't play now, I feel he probably doesn't play at all in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, see, I would have played Trent in a 4. I wouldn't play him in a 3. I think that people get confused sometimes thinking that because he's so good going forward and attacking that you automatically go, oh yeah, you've got to play him in at wing back. But a lot of the time when you're a wing back, depending on how you play it and how kind of progressive you are, a lot of the time your wing back plays with his back to play. Trent's not good at that. Trent's good at being tucked inside the pitch, picking it 10, 20 yards, sort of like close to the next midfielder, that then you normally have a little bit of width. If he plays out wide, there's no width. Yes, he has a passing range that can catch out any team in world football. He's a world-class passer of the ball. But if I was to play Trent, I would have played him in a 4, not a 3.
I agree. I don't think we'll see Trent, especially if we switch to back 5. I don't think he's suited to that position. We've not seen him play there before. I know you're putting the face.
Sad, man. I want to see him play.
We want to see the most talented players play. And I think pound for pound, in terms of just ability and talent, he should be starting. We see one of the best managers in the world, Jurgen Klopp, find a way to play Trent Alexander-Arnold. I know he's had detractors this season, but he's still one of the best fullbacks in the world. But I think if Gareth Southgate does experiment and go to a back three or a back five or defending, I don't see a place for Trent, which is a shame because if he doesn't play against Wales, then we're not going to see him further on in the tournament. And I think that's just going to be the story of Trent's career, unless a manager that comes in has a different idea of how he wants to play football, because he's a very specific player. He's a specialist. He's incredible at what he does, but he is specific, and I don't think we've got to send it back to counter what he does.
I think when you play against a low block like Wales, he's probably not going to have much to worry about going that way. So I think you probably can play him in a back four and say, go and penetrate them for us. Because I think the problem England will have, and they did have in that first game when it was tight, Iran, when the game opened up, obviously England went on to score 6 and it felt like England broke Iran down. But Iran were all over the place. But in the first 20 minutes, Iran actually sat deep and England were sort of going, where's the goal coming from? Is it a set piece, etc., etc. I think you take on Wales and they play that low block, you go, we're not going to really play with a 10. Mason Mount's not a penetrative 10. He's not trying to play loads of passes between the lines, not Bruno Fernandes. You bring in Trent and he's maybe a bit more of that profile. He's going to try a lot more things. I just think you've got to give this man a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that when you move to a 3 and if because he'll only play the wing-back role, I just think that especially when you play against a low block and everyone's behind the ball, he's just going to be met with an opposition player that's going to be there. Whereas when he's playing for Liverpool in a more fluid back four, he picks up positions that is hard to mark. Whereas at wing back, you haven't got the freedom to kind of go and play. If you're the only player a lot of the time that is offering width, but offering width against a low block means that every time you'll be receiving the ball, you'll either have your back to goal with another defensive player who's their wide left player in front of you, or you'll be then getting it with everyone inside the pitch. And yes, he's got delivery, but I actually think they'll get closer to Trent in a wing back position than they would do, where he likes picking up that position, and his best crossing comes from inside the pitch as well, that little on the angle one. So I think it's a shame. I would have liked to see Trent playing a 4, but
very
Gareth.
quickly, score predictions.
3-1 England.
Jody?
2-0 England.
I'm gonna go 1-0. I think it's gonna be a very boring game. England score from a corner, Harry Maguire.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.